What the heck is up, YouTube? I figured I'd do something a little bit different and show you a quick, grocery haul and what foods actually go into my system to allow me to not just look, but most importantly, feel my best. Now, there were times in the past, before I get into this video, where I would just focus on hitting my macros and I'd be chugging protein shakes, protein bars, and I had inflammation, I had like digestion issues, and to make a long story short, that is not what I do nowadays. So I'm gonna show you the quality foods that I put into my system on a regular basis and how you can do the same. So I'm not a big fan of starchy foods. Some of them I just don't feel great with. So we pick up some bands of pasta. These are made from chickpeas, 20 grams of protein per pop, and a lot of fiber in there, 8 grams per box. Fiber is key. If you're not getting fiber in your diet, then you're lacking. We also picked up some sea salted butter, because butter, you go with some quality stuff. We got some pasture raised eggs. Vital Farms is one of the best brands out there, because if your yolks are yellow and not orange, then you're doing something wrong. And then we also got Parmesan cheese. I don't do a ton of dairy, but when I do dairy, just showed you butter and cheese. I noticed that I feel better with Parmesan because it's aged and it has a lot less lactose in it, and it's able to process better, at least for me. I also got some ground beef. So we're gonna use this ground beef and the chickpea pasta in combination with some vodka sauce. You can also use just tomato sauce, and then throw the Parmesan in there. And I'm also gonna add in my diced tomatoes, and we make a big old stew. And that thing usually lasts me like 10, 12 meals, and it has fiber, protein, carbohydrates, but minimal carbs, probably 20 carbs or less in the whole dish per serving. So it's solid for me. I also picked up some sugar-free Chobani yogurt. Let's see if we can have good luck with this time. The covers on these are absolutely horrible. Whoever designs Chobani, they need to do them differently. As you open this and you take this thing off, there's no rim on it. And so last time I bought this, like 4 days ago, I spilled probably a quarter to maybe half of the Chobani on the floor over there, and that was just a disgrace. Anyways, I'm gonna use that yogurt and also this chocolate. It's not really chocolate, it's, as you can see, cacao, 100% unsweetened chocolate. So this is what real chocolate tastes like. It doesn't have sugar in there, it's quality, and this can actually be good for you. But a lot of people, they go with the sugar and the high fructose corn syrup, and I try to stay away from it. Sometimes I go with 70 or 60%, but the 100%, we're gonna try that out. Doesn't have a ton of flavor to it, but there are a lot of benefits. The dark chocolate, which I'm not gonna get into. And then I'm also gonna use some of my wildflower honey and my crunchy peanut butter and throw it in there. So we got the yogurt mix. That's a pretty decent meal. And then as a backup for, when I'm between client calls and work and I don't have a ton of time to prep, I have some chicken corn chowder that I can just throw in the microwave, 14 grams of protein per can. So that comes in handy, it's quick to prep. And then the final thing I got was some homestyle baked beans. I've been back and forth on these for a while. Yeah, they have a lot of sugar, technically, but I feel like I respond great to them, right? And because, as you can kind of see, my carbs are pretty low, I can get away with this and I actually feel good. So breakfast usually is, the eggs with the cheese, cooked in butter, and then some beans. And then as like maybe a midday lunch, I'll go with that yogurt, peanut butter, honey, and the dark chocolate, which is sugar-free, no sugar added. Mix that up. Sometimes I'll put fruit in there. That's always helpful. And then the rest of my meals pretty much, especially as of recent, it's just been the chickpea pasta, the tomatoes, tomato sauce, and ground beef, and some sauce. And that is what my nutrition has looked like for the past like 3 weeks. Of course, I rotate through at times, but like this is something I feel good with because it saves me a lot of time meal prepping. I literally get this whole pot. This is actually it right here. I get this whole big pot right here. I cook my pasta, I put the beef in there, I throw in the tomato diced up, I throw in the tomato sauce, and I mix in some Parmesan cheese, and then basically like my meals for lunch, dinner, whether I'm having 4 or 5 meals that day or just 3, I'm pretty much good to go. And then my breakfast is the one meal I cook, and the yogurt takes a few minutes. So it saves you a ton of time. You're gonna hit your macros, give or take, when you're with this, but like most importantly, the way I like to use is, I like to have an intuitive approach. So I'm eating foods that I feel good with. As you can, tell, and as I just mentioned, I eat these sorts of foods multiple times throughout the week, and it's pretty much the same sort of food. I feel good with them, right? I try to minimize the processed foods, and not to say everything here is perfect, also not to say that there are such things as bad or good foods, because truly when we tie emotion into food, this is when we start to rationalize with eating foods that maybe don't align with our goals, and also tying emotion into food just, sometimes can create some sort of resistance with what we're eating and make it tougher to stay on track. And so when I started to look at it in this approach, we're like, hey, these are the foods that I feel good with, and these are the foods that I respond best with, and they allow for me to hit my goals, then I'm in a good spot. Because I'm staying away from the processed things, like even the honey, the peanut butter, it's all pretty much organic food. And if, you're gonna go with these organic options, you'll feel great. Now, not to say like this is the only way to do it. There are plenty of ways. Some people eat ice cream and cookies and hit their macros and it works. And that's an approach to take. But I've always felt that after all the things I've tried low carb, I've tried keto, I've tried high fat, high protein, I've tried a bunch of different diets. And I keep my protein relatively high. I keep my fat on the relatively higher side. I tend to, most of the time at least, keep my carbs on the lower side. And as a general rule of thumb, I just choose options that I feel best with. So I don't feel good eating regular pasta. It just makes me feel not ideal. So I use that chickpea pasta, which I think tastes exactly the same, and it helps me get my fiber in. Fiber is really, really good for your digestion and helping, your body pull some more of those nutrients into your bloodstream, derive them there so you can actually, take in those nutrients. Because a lot of people, they say, hey, I'm eating 200, 300 grams of protein a day, which is a cap. Like, you are not eating that much protein. And it's just that fact, bro. I'll throw money on the table. I don't gamble, but like, I'm willing to throw money on the table. You're not eating that much consistently. And even if you are, you might be, but it's very challenging to actually absorb and break down all that protein into the amino acid chains that you need to build muscle. So a lot of people are like, oh, I'm hitting 200 grams of protein, but I'm not gaining muscle. And that is why. Not always, but that could be why. And that's, for me, like, I felt so much better having this intuitive approach where it's like, okay, roughly, give or take, I'm getting about 150, right, to sometimes 200 grams. Ladies and gentlemen, that's what my overall nutrition looks like, especially as of recent. Yes, of course, I change things up from time to time, but personally, I've never been a huge fan of like chicken and rice and broccoli. And when I eat those foods, because it's so low calorie, because it's so low nutrient density, I end up craving more foods. So I eat higher fats, higher proteins, and as you can kind of see, those are still quality options, but I just find that having a nice blend is what I feel best with. And so, ladies and gentlemen, that's what my overall nutrition looks like. If you implement these whole food options into your own diet, you're gonna notice that, life gets a lot more enjoyable, because when you're consistently eating foods that you don't respond well with, not just is it affecting your physical performance, your confidence, your energy levels, and literally everything you do in the entire day, but it's also affecting your mental health, how you feel on the internal. So making these adjustments, as cliche as it might sound, making these adjustments allowed my life to literally revolve around, just feeling a lot better, right? And when I stray away from these foods, I don't feel good. But where I'm at now, I'm at a point where I genuinely can't control myself so much. I used to be the worst. Like, I could go on and on talking about the cravings, the foods I used to eat, and like overconsumption and binge eating and these sorts of things. 99% of that was A, not being aware of like, yo, what the heck am I doing? But B, like not even being aware of like what I was doing and why I was choosing those foods. But B, it was the foods I was putting in my body. They were causing this, negative downward spiral, this domino in a sense, where I eat this one food, right? Like, I'm sure you guys can probably relate. You have one, cookie or one bowl of ice cream, I don't know, and it leads to you eating a bunch of other foods. See, it's not that the ice cream inherently is bad. It's that the ice cream has the sugars in there, right? And because it's not, an organic, healthy option, and it's processed, it's going to break down into your bloodstream as sugar. And so it gets very, very challenging to regulate if you're actually hungry or if your brain is just craving sugar when you feed sugar in the first place. So I'm at a point now where I genuinely don't really get cravings, because these are the foods I crave. I crave quality foods. Your body adapts and gets adjusted. So I think a lot of people on the outside looking in, they look at fitness and their health, and they're like, I don't know how that guy eats healthy per se. Number one, keep in mind, there's no such thing as healthy or unhealthy. It's just foods that get you in a different direction. Like, some foods are going to yield you one result and some are going to yield you the other. I just prefer to choose the ones that I feel best with, right? So I'm actually giving a positive reinforcement to the foods I'm eating, and I'm not labeling them as good or bad. And by doing that, it cultivates this healthy relationship. If I want to, I can go, eat a steak and cheese sub, or I can go eat a candy bar, right? Like, not to say like if I want to, I'm gonna go do that. I probably wouldn't want to, because I realize I feel so much better, but like I could choose to do that, and sometimes I do. But that being said, like, I genuinely don't want those foods. I can't, like, you would not understand it until you were on the inside looking out. But just know this, a week, 5 days to maybe 10 days of eating quality foods like this, you're gonna notice your cravings literally jump out the window, and you don't really have cravings, and you're like, what the heck? And you have this, this awareness just come to full conclusion, like, yo, what was I doing? Why was I eating all those foods in the first place? And it's literally, the grocery stores, the supermarkets, the gas stations, all the food they sell, it's not their fault, but it's who's making these foods, right? A, they're trying to save money, so they're putting cheaper quality ingredients in there, and it is a marketing tactic. The foods that are on the shelves, the foods that have the high fructose corn syrup, the sucralose, there's nothing inherently wrong with them, but those don't naturally break down in your bloodstream and in your body as do with these whole food options. And so if you want the step-by-step formula that I use for not just myself, but for my clients, so that they can A, hit their macros and start getting, positive reinforcement around their health, but then so that they can ultimately remove these cravings and get into the shape, the health, the energy that they truly desire, and so that they can achieve their ideal physique, then I want you to click the link below, book in your free strategy call, and I'll break down step by step what the process looks like. And for those of you guys that just want to check my Instagram out, it's jstroudfit. I'll see you guys on the other side.